right, it is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's see. Before we get around to approving the agenda, I just want to give a quick update. We almost always broadcast all of our meetings live. We're having some technical gremlins tonight. So we are not broadcasting live. However, Brenda has been really working hard to make sure that we have a vehicle in place. So we are recording this. It'll go live on the website tomorrow and look just the same as if it had been broadcast live. So also with those technical gremlins, we were not able to record the work session. So just a heads up on that. Lots of riveting topics tonight. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Pershman, a second by Councilmember Welsh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, community comment. Presenters are welcome to address the city council for matters relevant to the city of Carver's authority for up to 5 minutes on matters that are not listed on tonight's meeting agenda. Specific requests for more information may not be immediately available, but in which case follow-up will occur with the presenter sometime after the meeting. The city council should not be expected to immediately act on requests. However, they will follow up accordingly and may schedule items for future consideration. With that, is anybody here for community comment? All right, seeing none. We have no presentations and reports tonight, nor do we have public hearings. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve, excuse me, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Glad I'm not the only one. Who
Right.
gets one.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving right along, our first business item this evening is the Miriam Junction Trail Project Joint Powers Agreement. Mr. Anderson, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have before you a cooperative agreement or a joint powers agreement between Scott County and the city to collaborate as it relates to this project. I know this is a project that the council's been introduced to and you have some background on. You talked about it at your work session a couple weeks ago. The cooperative agreement details the project and really the city of Carver's involvement in it. As you know, it's a Scott County project. They're doing all the heavy lifting, they're owning the project. They're going to be paying for the project and installing it. But because there are components of the project that touch Carver and they've requested the ability to use some property that we own, specifically Riverside Park, for access, construction staging, things like that. We did feel the need to put together an agreement to memorialize all the different expectations and sort of lay out how things will work over the course of the next few years as this project is constructed. And so Mr. Schmidt, the city engineer, has put together a memo that is in your packet. It outlines a lot of different aspects and elements of the cooperative agreement. And we're happy to answer any questions. I would defer questions sort of related to the project details, locations, the engineering and design elements to Mr. Schmidt. I'm happy to answer any questions as it relates to the cooperative agreement itself or the language in that agreement. But we have worked on that. Staff's collaborated and had a couple meetings with Scott County that have gone very well. So we think what we have here tonight is a final product and something that works well for both parties. So again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have a few.
Oh, go ahead, Christine.
Okay. If we go into the actual agreement, number 7, it talks about that.
We're gonna go through.
Sure.
Can we go in order? And I have one before that. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
On page 2, item number 5, it says between August 1st, 2024 and December 31st, 2026. We have, and in the presentation that we saw a couple weeks ago, it says that Riverside Park can open up June 1st of 2026. Should that date not be June 1st, 2026 as well?
We started at that date. We've had some discussions with the the county, their concern about that drop dead date was if there's flooding or other issues that are out of everybody's control. They were really worried about having to bring an amendment back to the agreement. This is effectively a non-exclusive license in the legal sense that we're giving them to be able to use the park. They expect, assuming everything goes well and as planned, to be done certainly by June of 2026 and hopefully even earlier, according to them. But they just asked for a little bit of flexibility in the agreement itself. And so we did start when we drafted the agreement with that June date, after some discussion with everybody here at City Hall. We were able to push that back and we were comfortable doing that. But of course, I think everybody's goal and aspiration would be to be for the park to be open for that summer
Okay.
of that year.
So I hear you saying that this doesn't change anything. We're still there, still shooting for June 1st, and it's probably easier just to expand it through the end of the year, those extra 7 months in this document rather than doing an amendment.
Correct. And I don't know if Brent wants to speak to this, but I did take them as sincere and genuine when they said, we're only asking for this in case.
Yeah.
And we really wanted in there just to give them a little bit of flexibility again, in case something totally unanticipated.
That's
So,
good enough for me. I'm glad that it was on your radar
Yeah.
as well. Okay, number 9, Christie, sorry.
7, yep, number
Oh,
7.
7.
So it says that when we're talking about future use, when it comes to lighting, so that it's at the city's expense. So this is county-owned trail. I mean, who owns the bridge once it's all completed? Is this partially owned by Scott because of and Carver because of the river?
it's my understanding they'll own the bridge. We won't own it, but they have indicated a desire and a willingness to put the conduit in for potential lighting if the city chooses to put lighting in. And if we did that, we would own it, we would maintain it, we would pay for it.
Okay,
That's not part of the project, at least at this point.
okay, so they are going to put conduit in
Correct.
regardless.
Yep.
All right, so then, if we should someday want lighting on here and we want to do a deal with Scott County to go jointly on it, does this prohibit us from working with Scott County?
No, we could always renegotiate this term. I mean, I think their expectation was that if, at least as of now, if the city wants lighting, it will have to pay for it in the future. But if there's a joint desire for lighting and maybe the parties want to negotiate something, this agreement can always be either amended or we can just start from scratch and put together some sort of a, lighting agreement or a joint powers agreement that would be more narrow in scope and just deal with that aspect.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if you have any more background, Brent, on the potential desire for the county to.
Yeah, it's my
participate in lighting,
understanding
but-
they don't put in decorative lighting on bridges, so this would be considered decorative. And they voluntarily put that provision in there. We didn't ask them, so they're putting in the conduit for free without us requesting it, so. I didn't think it was material to the issue since they were just offering to put in conduit for free, so.
Sure, yep, that sounds good.
Okay, moving on to page
Oh,
4.
I had a
Go
question on 6, for Aaron. So, obviously, again, with the levee project on the Riverside Park, when they're returning it to the existing state, if they're gonna put dirt, we're gonna have to move eventually, or in the short order from the levee, is there anything we can do on that, or do they have to put it back to the general state of the park?
So we'll be involved in that process, like when they get to the end of that need, we'll
Okay.
go out there and like inform them. Basically what that's saying is we're not gonna require them to do anything that's above and beyond what the existing
Yeah,
condition
exactly,
is.
right, okay.
And just to kind of provide some context to that, we have kind of a bigger plan for that park, which you may
Okay.
recall with that Great River Greening
Oh, right,
restoration
yeah.
grant. So that could be kind of happening, one right after the other. So we'll see how that all kind of comes to fruition from a timing perspective, but
Okay.
the general goal is for them to leave that site and then we'd follow up with kind of that restoration project.
Okay.
That's the overarching goal in that area.
Okay, thanks.
All right, moving on to anybody else on page 3? Page 4, I've got a couple. For number 13, I think we should specify that Steamboat Days is always the weekend after Labor Day. Just don't want it to creep up on anybody who's reading this agreement and who might not be familiar with all the happenings in the city of Carver.
I think we can clarify that, or they do know that too. When we talked about this, they
Okay.
wanted to make sure they knew when Steamboat Day was, and we indicated it's always that same weekend in September.
Well, it's not the same
Okay.
weekend. It's always the weekend after.
After
Labor
we
Day,
gave
so it
them
doesn't fall on like
dates.
the first or
Right,
the second.
I just mean it's always follows Labor Day. in terms of-
Okay.
Okay.
We can either work that, I mean, to me, it's written just fine in terms of
Okay.
enforceability, but
Okay.
the reason I'm a little reluctant to make, and we can talk about changes if the council's desires to make any substantive changes, but, I think we can make sure they understand that, and I feel like if we approve this as is tonight, we can always work that language and just to be crystal clear and make sure that they don't have any, confusion about when that date.
I trust your gut, but I just feel like if we have it in here, if they're like, oh, when is Steamboat Days? I
Right.
know it's in the JPA, we can figure that out.
Right.
Mhm.
Um,
But hopefully, I guess if we would really have to move it for some reason, I guess they just have to follow their schedule.
Yeah, sure.
I'm on 13 too. I have
Okay,
one question on
go.
13 also. So when I was looking at 13 and it says, no activities shall occur on Sundays or legally recognized holidays. The legally recognized holidays, certain businesses recognize them differently, you know, like my job, President's Day isn't a holiday for us, so.
We're talking about state recognized or city recognized holidays.
Okay.
Typically, I mean, this is the same language we put in our development agreements too.
It is, okay,
And yeah, there's a list in state statute of the legally recognized holidays that typically.
okay,
include. Cities do have the option, for example, for, Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day, I believe that's the one that some recognize and some don't, but we could refer to the city's policies for that.
all right, the only reason I'm asking is because this is such a long project. And we do have variables of weather and flooding that if they're working that day I don't want them to work on Memorial Day or Labor Day, but if their company does, or whatever it is, President's Day or whatever it might be, that they were allowed to work on it to just keep charging ahead.
I don't have a position on it. I mean, I think we wanted to just be consistent with what we allow in the city in terms of development
Okay,
and not give them any rights that we wouldn't otherwise authorize a, private developer to do. So I'm perfectly comfortable expanding. I mean, we do have some of the language in here that gives the city engineer the right to authorize work on days that might preclude work otherwise. So, if they're really behind schedule and we think that it's
Mhm.
okay to authorize work on those days, there would be nothing that would legally preclude the city from saying, yeah, go ahead and work on President's Day or whatever other day it might be.
okay. I'm glad to see in there that we have Sundays off. I think there's gonna be a lot of construction fatigue down here over the
Yeah.
few years. So I think one day a week at the minimum is nice to have off so people get a break from the noise and movement, but. So if we think that covers it, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
Let's see, I just had one thing at the end. Does anybody else have anything else specific?
I have another number, but not
Go
on
ahead.
the same page. Probably. I have 23. 23, we're talking about how long they're going to keep records. And maybe I just need some clarification that it says a minimum of 6 years. Is that with something that is this large in scope with this much money involved? Could they really destroy records after 6 years?
We just want them to keep it for 6 years because there's a statute and you can see the reference in there. This was their language actually.
Okay,
Indicating that when agreements are in place, public bodies have to ensure that all documents related to projects that you spend public money on are saved for at least 6 years, so the auditors can go back and look at it if they need to. The county is subject to a records retention schedule, just like the city is, so they would have to adhere to whatever retention requirements are out there as well. This is just talking about accounting procedures and things like that, so.
Okay.
This is fairly boilerplate when it comes to auditing procedures.
okay, sounds
And
good.
Just to clarify, it would be 6 years from the end of the construction, right? So 2026, 27 would be to
Correct.
2032.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Do you have a specific?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I just had a general question.
Yeah, mine's general too. So my only other question is this, I didn't see anything here. When we met with the Scott County folks, we talked about how communication was gonna be so important to our folks on this side of the river. Did these JPAs ever include anything like that, expectations about reaching out and communicating with residents?
Typically, I mean, if we wanted to include something like that, I think we could ask. I mean, I feel like as a fellow public body, they're gonna be just as good at public engagement as our city might be. You know,
I
I
feel like
think
we're
there's,
exceptional, but.
well, and they're used to dealing with, project management and administration and members of the public coming and asking questions, and I'm guessing they're gonna be widely available to answer questions from the public if there are any. There is some language in here, I'm not gonna probably be able to find it, but it talks about, you know, providing project updates and things to us as a city when we request it.
Yeah,
Which we can always communicate with our residents to the extent we need to, and, you know, I don't get the sense that, Scott County is gonna be that difficult to get information from during the project, so if we have questions that, residents need, or if staff has, inquiries coming in from people in Carver and they want to respond to them, I don't expect there to be problems getting that information from the county. It is their project and they have they have all the same, hopes and goals of this being a very successful project and things running smoothly. And so we didn't put anything in here about that, other than just the parties will cooperate in good faith and work together. And, I think as a fellow public entity, I would expect that to be the case.
Okay.
I don't know, Brent, do you have any other thoughts on?
okay.
on that?
I appreciate that it says that it's gonna keep us updated. I feel pretty strongly that the city of Carver is not taking the lead on this, even to our own folks. I think that this needs to go directly to Scott County, and that was just kind of my concern is there's in the PowerPoint on slide 9, it talks about their communication plan of open houses and newsletters and websites and social media posts. I just wanna, that sounds like that'll check all the boxes that I have on my list. I just wanna make sure that they're actually doing that, and that if I get a call from somebody who's hot about noise or obstruction or anything, that we can say, kind of sometimes our default is, well, Brent will know more about this. Let's connect him with that. I don't know who the Brent is.
We
in
need
this
somebody to send them to.
situation.
We needed
Yeah,
the email address to send them to.
and if it's that Kyle Salmons, that's
Mhm.
fine, but maybe this isn't something that needs to be a bullet in the joint powers agreement, but just in general, this isn't our project to manage from a communication standpoint. And I want to make sure that we have that person so that we can say, hey, Eric, thanks for calling. I understand you're upset. This isn't a Carver County project. Let me connect you with Kyle from Scott County. Here's his number. Here's his email address.
Will be taken care of.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox on that. That's it for me. You said
Yeah.
you're the general.
I just had a general question. Just obviously you've done some of the things like this before. Is there anything that stands out as unusual that we should be paying attention to its agreement, or like you said, they're pretty boilerplate and?
No, it's pretty boilerplate. I mean, a lot of the, first 15 paragraphs or so are related to sort of the policy and the negotiations between the two parties. The rest of it is a lot of legalese and liability stuff, which is standard. And, because it's a joint powers agreement, we're able to minimize risk and liability and combine the tort liability cap, so both parties sort of fall under one umbrella, which is nice. States have that. So I would say there's nothing in here that's concerning or out of the ordinary when it comes to these sorts of joint projects. These are common when, one neighboring community or city is working with another neighboring community or county or city and doing work either in that area or at least to the extent where it requires a little bit of cooperation. So I think it's fine and I have no issues with the.
Excellent. Thanks.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the execution of a cooperative agreement with Scott County for the Miriam Junction Trail Project.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Welsh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Up next, the 2024 Utilities Project, authorizing plans and specs. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is for authorization to prepare plans and specifications for the 2024 utility improvements project. This goes back to, we had bid a project in November of this year. We received one bid for that project. Council chose at that point to reject the bid based on the pricing that was received. Since then, we've gone back, we thought about how this could be restructured. The council heard about this at the work session tonight of the possibility of using a utility revenue bond to pay for the improvements that were contemplated at the time in November, and then also looping in the recoating of water tower number 2. And so that's what this would do. That would bring this into one package. It would be for the complete rehabilitation of wells 1 and 3 and that well house on that site. It would be for well 2 and tower, or well 4 and tower number 2, adding that automatic transfer switch and doing the SCADA computer upgrades on that site. And then lastly would be to do the complete coating rehabilitation of water tower number 2, both the inside and the outside of that water tower. So as it relates to the project schedule, we would be looking to put those bid documents together this March and send out to bid in this spring. The city council would have the ability to review those bids. Then we'd bring them back and consider awarding a contract at that time. The schedule, we had a question at the work session about the water tower number 2 and how that would get structured in the course of a year. So obviously the summer months are very demanding from a water use perspective. So we need to try to avoid those months to the extent possible. So we'd either have to structure it such that we would be doing that coating kind of in the fall or in the spring. I was even talking today about the concept of maybe doing some of that work, in fall and spring. So you just you might have to mobilize twice to the site, but just to really limit our risk from a water use perspective in the summer. I think that's goal number 1. So, we'll be bringing that back to the council and kind of describing our full plan of that as we have time to think about that some more. But really for tonight, it's whether or not you're comfortable moving forward with us preparing those plans for this project. So the total estimated cost as presented is $3,065,000. And again, that would be encompassed in that utility revenue bond that would be issued this year. So.
All right, any questions?
No, we've discussed this in.
Yeah.
work session.
Then anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation of plans and specifications for the 2024 utility improvements projects.
Motion by Councilmember Pershman,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, up next, commission appointments. Let's start with the
Didn't
HPs.
we have
we
the
have one.
street
Oh,
maintenance?
I'm sorry. I'm excited to move along. Okay. The
We got two more.
2024 street maintenance project, authorized plans and specifications for that project. Mr. Schmidt,
Okay,
sorry, I tried to do away with your second item on the agenda.
that's okay. Okay, so the 2024 street maintenance projects, this includes the reclamation of 4th Street West from Jonathan Carver Parkway to Old Elm Drive. And it includes the mill and overlay of Sibley Street, Groff Street, Gilflin Avenue, and Elm Drive West. And so those would be mill and overlays, and then 4th Street again would be a full depth reclamation. So the side streets would just be getting the 1.5 inches taken off the top and repaving an 1.5 inch layer on top of that. So basically a new wearing course finish. And then 4th Street's a complete rehab. So you're going all the way down to the gravel base and paving an all new pavement section, which would be 5 inches thick. So that's kind of the two differences in the project areas. A couple other items that were looped into the project. Number 1, High Street has a trail connection proposed from the existing trail that enters High Street near Community Park. So there'd be a short trail connection from from that trail segment down to Fourth Street West. And that would include a pedestrian crossing at Fourth Street West. And then lastly, there's an existing sidewalk segment just west of Old Elm Drive that has steep side slopes on it now. There's some concrete slope paving. We'd like to eliminate that because that's an ADA issue. We want to put a new sidewalk in behind the back of curb and then tie in the slope behind that sidewalk into the yards. So that would essentially eliminate that kind of that slope, which really doesn't meet any sort of ADA standard. It's not a desirable thing to have.
Was
with
that just on the one corner?
Yep, it's like for
It's half a block.
like
Is it?
200-300 feet west of Old Elm Drive.
Half our property line,
Okay,
basically. And it's steep. I've always been worried about slipping or tumbling.
Yeah,
So then no retaining wall.
No.
That slope will just go on property owner's side.
yep.
Have we
So-
connected with that individual?
So we tried to connect with that individual. We were not able to connect. It doesn't appear that somebody's living in that house
Oh,
right
is it
now,
brown
so,
house on the corner?
it's like.
Yeah.
OG,
I believe that's in foreclosure.
Oh,
but we did try to reach out. We just haven't been able to
okay.
get a hold of them, so.
Are there any trees right there that we have to dig into?
As proposed, no, there are no trees that will have to impact with that sidewalk construction.
I think that is smart, because that's a 2 foot in some
Mhm.
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah,
rise.
it's pretty steep.
Yeah.
So from a schedule perspective, this would be, authorizing us to go out and receive bids for the project. Be coming back, in April to consider award of that project. This is a state aid project. So we'd be using state aid funds for the Fourth Street construction. And then, on the side streets, that would be using the local street maintenance funds that the council has been, contributing to in the capital improvement plan for the last several years. So where does the project sit as it relates to the overall pavement management plan? So the pavement management plan contemplated a total project cost of $978,000. As summarized today, I'm estimating a total project cost of $1 million or $1,070,000. And how that breaks out, I have a chart in the council memo. The biggest change is in the MSA funding. I'm showing that was about $45,000 more than what I had originally estimated within the pavement management plan. That's due to kind of a wide variety of reasons. But the good news is, so the allocation from the state into our MSA account for this year was actually $50,000 more than we had contemplated within the pavement management plan. That was due to a 9% funding increase year over year to that program. So we have the source of funds to account for that difference. So I'd recommend moving forward with that as planned today. The other differences are primarily just some utility related items that came up as we designed the project. So public services there's a handful of gate valves that need to be replaced out there. And one short segment of water main to be replaced. That's an old stub we want to get out of the system just because it's kind of susceptible to long-term issues. So that's what the $42,000 is. It's for some water utility maintenance work when we're in there digging up the street. So.
So is that along the Fourth Street stretch that is gonna be dug up?
Yep, so there's a stretch right there at Fourth and High Street at the intersection. And then there's actually a set of valves that are at that community park trail where it hits High Street. There's a series of 3 or 4 valves there that need to be replaced as well. So that will require a water main shutdown for a day to do probably each of those. So you probably have 2 series of shutdowns, but we'll replace those when we're doing the street work. So. Any questions?
Questions? You said it, but I just wanna say it again. I think when we talk about street projects like this, the number of questions like, what's the assessment? How much am I gonna have to pay? What is this gonna cost me and my family? This is being funded through a combination of funds. Part of that is that street maintenance fund. which we decided to start putting money away for probably about 3 years ago now. This is the third or fourth year.
2020, I believe, was the first year, so this will be the fourth
This
year.
is the fourth year. Yeah, can't believe it's been that fast or that long. So the short answer is no assessments for this project. This was a decision that council made for these kinds of projects, knowing that we would have a large series of them to get a lot of the older streets in town kind of up to snuff and modernized. So with that, I will make a motion to authorize plans and the preparation of plans and specifications and order bids for the 2024 street maintenance projects.
I'll second. I'll take it. I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Councilmember Welsh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now let's talk about commission maintenance. That's good. What do you think?
On February 26th, the city council conducted interviews for the open positions on the Heritage Preservation Commission and the Planning Commission. Tonight, we are asking that you make the appointments for the open positions on both commissions. For the Heritage Preservation Commission, let me pull up my slide quickly here. There we go. And I do have a copy of this at your council spot as well. For the Heritage Preservation Commission, we have 2 board member positions and the second alternate position to be filled. All 3 positions are for a 3-year term with a term end date of March 1st, 2027. For the Planning Commission, we have 3 board member positions to be filled and the first alternate position and the second alternate position to also be filled. How that breaks down is that we have 1 board member position to be filled for a 3-year term with a term end date of March 1st, 2027. The City Council recently accepted the resignations of Daniel Velick and Phil Schechter, which left 2 board member positions vacant. These positions have 2 years remaining of their term with a term end date of March 1st, 2026. In addition to the 3 board member positions, we have 2 alternate positions to be filled for a 3-year term with a term end date of March 1st, 2027. The details of these positions are highlighted on the chart displayed. So if we'll start with the Heritage Preservation Commission, I'll need a motion from the council in order to make the appointments.
Do you want to go separately or as one? Like
Why don't
motion,
we?
like in the
Yeah,
end, is it just
I'm okay with
one
doing
or is
one,
it?
especially for HPC. I think that one's straightforward in my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe we all agree. Why don't you make one motion?
All right. I would like to make a motion to have Judy Brosh be a full board member. Amy Kidrowski to be a full board member. And Brian. So then Brian Parker would become on as the first alternate, and then the second alternate would be an open position.
Correct.
That's my motion.
That's
So,
probably not exactly what I was thinking.
Same thing I had.
I'll second that
Okay.
because I agree.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Hirschman. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Let's do planning commission separately.
Each one individually. Okay.
Anyone want to start?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, I move to appoint James Wygand as board member for the planning commission with the term expiring of 3/1/2027.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second to make Jim, for ease, the top person on this list here. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right,
I'll make a motion to put Sherry Welsh into the position that Mr. Velikas vacated, expiring 3/1/26.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second for Sherry to be that second spot on the list of position through 3/1/26. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, I will make a motion to appoint Billy Thomas to the term that Phil Schechter is resigning through 3/1/26.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I
Go ahead.
I would
Ryan.
like to move Eric.
Okay, well, we got a motion.
Okay.
In a second.
Well, yes, for discussion though. So
Yeah.
there's a discussion about it.
You were gonna make.
Oh, sorry, I should
Yeah.
not have said move. I mean, I think Eric would do a good job as a permanent board member. He's obviously been involved. He's attending the meeting now. He's been very involved. He's been at multiple city council meetings. So I think he would be great as a full board member.
I also have comments. I want to advocate for Eric to be in this position. He has applied to council. He has now applied to planning commission. I think he has shown his interest in being part of city government and what we do is apparent. He's also here tonight and I have seen him a number of times at our meetings. So that will be my preference.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Hey,
Nay.
Opposed, same sign, so you can say aye. I think we need a roll call for this.
Councilmember Welch,
Nay.
Councilmember Mock,
nay.
Councilmember Pershman,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. All right, so motion fails. Okay.
Excuse me,
Can we-
Mayor.
Okay.
Can we have this, the city attorney, just for those who might be watching later, go through what the rules are on a tie like that, or a motion failure?
Yeah, I mean, the motion obviously doesn't pass. There needs to be 3 out of 4 tonight since we're missing a council member. But that doesn't mean you can't continue discussing it, try to reach a consensus. There can always be another motion. But at this point in time, at least, it sounds like there's a deadlock. So if you're unable to appoint somebody tonight, you can always continue the discussion for when you have a full council. I assume Councilmember Sarah will be back at the next meeting, so you can always continue that discussion. You know, it's interesting, you probably want to wait to fill the 2 alternate positions until you have this last vacancy filled, just because for 2 reasons. One, I think the person appointed, it might depend, obviously the 2 alternate positions will depend on who is appointed to this first seat. But also there's some language in the ordinance about how if there's a vacancy, the first alternate automatically fills that vacancy. And so you don't want to appoint an alternate because that by operation of your ordinance would create a situation where that person is effectively going to be automatically pushed into that vacant seat. So my suggestion is if the group cannot reach a consensus tonight, which that's okay if you can't, is to maybe continue the discussion to the next meeting. I don't know if the planning commission meets. I don't think you do. They wouldn't be meeting before the next meeting of the council here in March. So that might make the most sense.
Dave, can we make another, can we make another motion?
You certainly can. Yeah.
Yes.
Or do you want to have a discussion about this?
Sure.
So
We
just
could have-
before, what I'm thinking about is planning commission is the 3rd Thursday, is that right? So it's the 21st.
One more meeting.
So we do meet again if we have a stalemate.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, so let's discuss our decision around Eric then. My decision is based on the interviews that we went through, but I completely agree. Eric has shown a willingness to volunteer. He's applied 3 times. So absolutely my intent to have Eric fill one of the positions. It was solely based on our interview process and alignment with some understanding around what we're doing as a city. I thought that Billy did a little better job in his response, and that's why I rank ordered it.
Her.
Sorry,
Her.
I've said that.
Yeah.
So, how I rank ordered it. But absolutely agree with both of your sentiment that Eric needs a place on the planning commission.
So I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Eric to the board member position for, was it Bill that we run, Bill Schechter?
Yes.
And that one has a end date of 3/1/26.
I'll second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye.
Councilmember Pershman,
Would be
Nay.
nay, yeah.
Say-
Mayor Johnson.
Nay. So just where I'm coming from. There are 5 spots here. We have 5 applicants. I am not excluding everybody. Everybody kind of
Yeah.
has a role in how I've got things. In my preference, I thought, some of the stuff that Billy said in the interview was like this aha moment for me. When she was talking about, making parks more accessible. When you think of accessible, you think about kids who are differently abled, right? But then when she said, because my parents take my kids there and they're not necessarily able to lift up children and have some mobility issues themselves. That was like a light bulb moment for me. So, this is the hard part, right? And this is how you get to see how the sausage is made, Eric, and I'm sorry, I'm the only person it's more awkward for than you is for us. We were lucky enough to have a really good group of folks. And I think folks that ran the gamut from folks who hadn't been involved with city stuff to folks who we had seen a number of times before. So I think it's really great. We have enough slots for everybody. It's just a different preference of how I saw things based on what I saw in the interviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think Billy did a great interview. She was gonna be my first alternate.
Mine also, yeah.
So, do you wanna?
We can't go through because
Can we make a, can we renominate Billy, or do we have to, for the, if, after some more discussion, or do we need to?
well, you went through the calendar, right?
Do you want to make that motion?
Okay, hold on a second here. Before we make a motion, so you went through the calendar, so you said we do have another
Meeting.
one more
Yeah,
meeting
that's true. I
before
guess
their
we set
next
up
planning
Lori.
commission meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And can I just add, council and mayor, so there is a 4-member planning commission at the moment, so they're certainly able to meet and operate and function. I mean, there's gonna be a group of 4 that are gonna be able to get meeting materials that we be prepared to meet the 3rd Thursday of this month. In terms of time sensitivity, of course, you wanna not have a shorthanded planning commission, but you have the luxury, I think, of having the ability to bring your 5th council member back here to discuss. And just to clarify too, I know, I don't know if Brent was thinking about this or not, but there is, when council is appointing to fill a vacancy on your body, tie votes are broken by the mayor selecting that person, but planning commissioners and HPC members are selected by the council just with a majority vote. And so there's no tiebreaker. And so, the hope and goal would be, since you have 5 of you, there's going to be a consensus and eventually you'll get to a decision. So, there's nothing precluding the council from discussing it further or bringing another motion. You can certainly raise the same motion again. Maybe it'll, get over the hurdle that it needs to, but just wanted to say those thoughts as we kind of walk through the process here.
So Pat, would you like to make a motion?
I think maybe we should wait for Lori to get her input
I would love to be able to figure this out tonight.
tonight.
I think when we all ran for this office, when we ran for this office, we knew we'd meet on the 1st and 3rd Mondays of the night or of the month. Lori is not here tonight. I would love to get this taken care of tonight if we can.
And my follow-up comment is if we do have enough time to go through the next one, we are obviously appear to be considerably deadlocked, that it might, for me, to have the fifth council member here, with her vote on these next three, seems just fine to me. We have, as the city attorney said, we have enough folks on here to conduct business should we have to, but it doesn't sound like we have to until after the next council meeting anyways. As much as I would have liked this to go more smoothly tonight and we would check the boxes and have it completed. For myself, I'm not in any rush if we don't have to be.
Can we just go through and talk about what orders we have, everybody, for the remaining?
Sure.
What do you have, Reed?
Yeah, I had Eric, Billy, and Lincoln. So Eric would have been the board member, Billy, first alternate, Lincoln, second alternate.
Okay. Christie?
And ditto, mine was also, that exact lineup.
Yeah.
Yep.
Eric?
I had Billy, Lincoln, and Eric.
And I had Billy, Lincoln, and Eric. Would we be willing to move to a compromise of Billy, Eric, and Lincoln?
I think so. Right, so Billy, full member, and Lincoln, or, and then Eric, first alternate.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that works for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay, I will make a motion to appoint Billy for the board member position expiring 3/1/2026, which replaces Phil Schechter following his resignation.
Second,
A motion and a second, motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Councilmember Welsh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Right, motion passes, but I think you need to do a roll call.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Councilmember Mock,
Nay.
Councilmember Pershman,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
All right, I move to appoint Eric Jansky as the first alternate on the planning commission for the term expiring 3/1/2027.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Welsh, a second by Councilmember Pershman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I will make a motion to appoint Lincoln as second alternate for a term that expires March 1st of 2027.
I'll second.
Sorry, that was it, full stop. Motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Councilmember Bach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, guys. I always say that we get more done because we can compromise at this level and refer to at other levels, where folks play party politics and party lines as being ickier because they can't compromise. And that was, in my opinion, a good example of that, as awkward as it was. So, congratulations
Yeah.
on your appointment to the planning commission. Despite the back and forth that we went through up here, it is very often that the first and even second alternates get called up.
Yeah.
So, it really doesn't make much difference or as much debate as there was up here, because I can bet that you will be up here more often than you'll be sitting down there just because of everybody's schedules and conflicts. So congratulations, welcome.
Yeah, welcome aboard. And it really is an awkward process to have to watch that deliberation. So thank you
Yeah.
for tolerating that. And I'm happy to have you join. 3 times I had made a comment too that we really have to be thankful for people that are willing to volunteer their time at the pay grade that we offer you. Spend time. with the planning commission.
The pay.
Thank you.
And because he said the word pay grade, don't let him make you think that there's any money involved.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, we made it through that. Mr. Merrick, any council updates?
Just one, we're, Vicky and the team are administering the presidential primary tomorrow in the village hall room downstairs. So polls open at 7 a.m. So just thanks in advance to all our election workers for their service to the community.
That was one of my items on my list. Thank you for being to it. All right, Reed, do you want to go first? I'm gonna call on you first one of these
Yeah.
nights, so.
One of them, one of.
No,
I get it. Start at the end. It's no big deal.
I don't have anything in particular.
Okay, Christy.
We had an HPC meeting last week and was it last week? Yes, I'm sorry, I'm a little off with February, March starting. That extra day really threw me for the loop. So we talked about the Miriam Junction Trail project. The group as a whole was very in favor and felt really excited about it. I did get here a little late. That was that snowy day that we had. So Brent, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to comment on that I might have missed before I was able to be here.
No, just we shared it at the end, but just wanted to recognize Dave Schultz and his many years of service.
On my list.
And my list as well. Thanks, Brent.
Well, I thought you were asking me. Never mind.
So, yeah, David Schultz was a part of the HPC for. What? Oh, is this new news to you? Yeah, yeah. We actually tried to figure it out and we couldn't figure out. He was on back when like the Von Walters were still on. So it's been a really long time. So we want to thank him for his service to the community and serving on the HPC. And he was one of our non-downtown residents. So, and then he was also the chair of it. So it was great. So I'm sad to see him go, but we have some new folks here coming on. So as we go along. And then we have an HPC meeting next week. And Brent, what is our topic that night?
Aaron Schmidt is going to be in attendance. So
Mark your calendars.
Talking about.
so for certified levy project and the 3rd Street Bridge.
All right, that is my update. Thank you.
Eric?
So I attended the Southwest Transit meeting last week, and kind of just an interest story. Southwest Transit will be partnering with an autonomous drive company for some of the smaller buses, and there'll be a couple of routes closer in, I think, to Eden Prairie. It's not really autonomous drive because there'll be a babysitter watching the vehicle in the bus for X number of months, but it'll give Southwest the ability to move that to a fully autonomous vehicle. And the hope is that as Prime expands, that'll aid with the expansion of Prime on some of the busier routes. So look for Minnesota to be in the news.
Is this, so when you say there's a babysitter, so they're basically just trying this out, like a few months, this person's gonna ride in there and see how it goes?
It's to ensure that, so these are adaptive learning vehicles, and they have to, sometimes it may not see a sign at a proper height, and you need to make some tweaks and
Like a
adjustments.
stop sign.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty common thing. When they launched it in Arizona, they had
Do
somebody.
they have a time frame though that they think it might go totally autonomous?
Well,
So I know when not to.
When you stop
it's
driving.
probably pretty variable, but it'll be at least a period of a few months.
Okay.
So part of the expansion of Prime service with Southwest Transit.
And this is a full-size bus?
No. This is gonna be a small Prime vehicle, like a van.
Prime-size bus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, van.
Yep.
That's wild.
So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of fun to see that technology finally make its way, and that's service we utilize. So we'll see how that goes.
And the babysitter will be sitting in the driver's seat. So for the first few months, we won't know the difference.
You wouldn't know the difference, right? Other than, the
Oh,
driver
no.
having the arms crossed.
Anxiety.
Yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
you can really call it autonomous when you've got somebody there, but that's the staging to get you there.
Yeah.
That's it.
We'll tell you
Gosh,
what that
you're
is
old,
sometime.
Brent.
Oh, Aaron has no idea what we're talking about. Have you ever heard of Pepsi?
I might have a trapper keeper.
All right, anything else, Eric?
No, that's it.
Okay, a few updates for me. I went to the February Lower Minnesota River Watershed District meeting. I sent an email to Brent and had Brent send it to everybody But two really great takeaways from that. They updated their letter of support for the levy project, which is just always good to have. There's been a tremendous amount of change on that board. So having a current letter from somebody who's currently on the board, big win. Perhaps more exciting is they went over their legislative priorities at that meeting. And they directed their lobbyist to start working on our behalf on the lower Minnesota, or on the river levy project. So a number of years ago, probably 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, we talked about potentially having a lobbyist. And lobbyists are expensive, and there isn't a guarantee that they'll be successful in their efforts. I'm not a gambler. We decided not to go down that path, but to be able to have somebody who's working for the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District advocate on our behalf when they're reaching out as part of the legislative priorities for that group, I think is a huge win. That's something that I'm really, really excited about. On February 26th, I had coffee with Leanne, my contact from the Realtors Association. We had a really good talk about some of these housing bills that are preemptive. You all know me well enough to know that I am vehemently opposed to this. I don't think it's a good thing for cities, and it's something that preempts our authority here at the city of Carver. So we had a really good conversation about that, but it was interesting to hear their point of view. I would also like to recognize Dave Schultz. Everything that Christy and Brent said, he did a tremendous job with the HPC, and he's just a really cool, level-headed individual. And not that things get tense traditionally at HPC meetings, but he's just always like, all right, now we'll do this. So he will be missed, but he is focusing some priorities on some of their stuff. So last Thursday, February 29th, Southwest Transit is working on a long-term strategic plan, and their planners were in town from Colorado. And we did a tour of our city. I understand that Brent and potentially Eric told these consultants that Southwest Transit is working with a lot about our community, but they actually got to see what we were talking about in terms of this is our growth area, this is the commerce centers, this is our historic downtown. So it was really cool to see the city of Carver for the first time through their eyes as they were here. Last Friday, March 1st, met with Deb Barber from the Met Council. She is our district liaison, district representative on the Met Council. You guys have probably followed along with the email chain of the future population estimates for the city of Carver are way out of whack compared to what we have been going with and what's in our 2040 comprehensive plan. So she was receptive to that feedback, and then we kind of had a longer conversation about updates about the Met Council. We hadn't seen Deb out here in a number of years, so it was good to see her. Also met with Michael Phelps, not the swimmer, the CEO from Ridgeview. And I had met him at an event a couple months ago, and he said, boy, I haven't been out to Carver in a long time. So I jumped on that opportunity to just make sure that we're still on his map. I don't know that they are going to be expanding out here anytime soon because the medical industry as a whole is still kind of experiencing some growing pains and not growing bigger based off of COVID and usage rates and that kind of thing. So, but there are potentially some things that we can collaborate on going forward. So hopefully just planting a seed and playing a longer game there for if and when they're ever ready to expand. I also have on here, tomorrow's the presidential primary vote. And thanks to the election judges, those folks put in really, really, really long days for something like $13 an hour. So thank you to all of them. And then just looking forward, on Thursday, Brent, Eric, and I are going to the League of Minnesota Cities Day on the Hill, where we will talk to all of our legislators about the levy project and learn about the league's legislative priorities and all that good stuff. So
I have a question about March 7th.
Okay.
Oh, so I was just, that email that was sent out this morning, we're talking about, and I didn't get a chance to go through it because it just came in this morning, with the bill, especially the one authorizing multifamily buildings without higher requirements up to 150 feet. What do you need from us? What do we need to do here for this? You guys are heading down there.
Yeah. I think if you're inclined to send, I think, help me out without pulling up the
There's some
thing, but I think.
recommended language in what to say
Yeah,
to-
I think one of those, Representative Nash is the author on. I think we all have, and
Mhm.
some of us have relationships with him.
Mhm.
You can send him an email saying, no,
What do you think?
this, yeah,
Mhm.
yes, you can,
Mhm.
you can, yeah, I mean. We are meeting,
Are you-
Representative Nash has been a huge friend of the city of Carver for the levy project, so. My idea when we're meeting with him is kind of multifaceted as far as telling him and sharing updates on the levy project, but also letting him know that we don't have the infrastructure
Mhm.
or the plans to be able to support a potentially 150-foot tall building.
Mhm.
We're meeting with Representative Kraft from St. Louis Park, who I wouldn't know if he was sitting in this room. I don't know him from Adam, but he is the author of one of these bills as
Mhm.
well. And I'm truly just curious as to where they're coming from, because both of those individuals come from city government
Mhm.
before they went to the state. So especially knowing that, I'm curious, and I truly want to know like where they're coming from, why
Mhm.
these preemption bills seemed like a good idea.
Mhm.
So I would say if you're willing, email as many folks as you can tonight. Certainly Grunhagen, Harder, you know, because we've been so recently redistricted, I still consider Coleman and Nash, you know, they
Mhm.
know where Carver is.
Mhm.
Potentially some of these folks
Mhm.
who are authoring these other bills don't.
Mhm.
So I would say reach out to everybody you can. You can take a look at those bills and see where the committees that they're being presented in front of. And then there are lists of the committee members. You gotta kind of click through and
Mhm.
Google a little bit, but email all the committee members. The league, today's information that Brent shared, I think was from Metro Cities. The league, do you guys get the emails from the league too?
You
Mhm.
forward us one. I
Okay.
didn't sign up for it, but I.
I don't know that there's been a special one from the league in a couple of days.
There's an LMC action alert. Is that the
That's,
one?
yes, that's it.
Okay, that one.
So they're really good about sharing good talking points.
Mhm.
So, you know, if you're pressed for time, I think it's okay to copy and paste and maybe tweak 15 degrees to make it sound like it's Reed speaking or Christie speaking or
Okay,
Eric
there's
speaking.
only
So,
25.
um, but yeah, I would
Just
say,
another reminder.
Thanks.
I would argue that perhaps if you guys spoke up, Nash knows me. I think he knows that I'm gonna say, what are you thinking? Where are you coming from? Where's your head at for this? Cause I've had this conversation with him before, but I think the more people he can hear from, and if he's like, oh, Christie,
Mhm.
you know, like hopefully that
Yeah.
will help move the needle here.
Yep.
This stuff
Yep, I'll talk
could
to
really tie our hands.
Mhm.
And I'm almost certain that, you know, if Carver Oaks came in as a 150-foot tall apartment complex, the Carver residents wouldn't like the fact that there's nothing that we can do about that either,
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
And the
Okay.
cost of a ladder truck that would
Yeah.
Right,
accommodate that.
yeah. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, does that help?
Mhm.
Okay,
I totally forgot. I do have something to add, sorry.
all right, go.
I was at the Carver County Leaders Meeting, last week, and they had a good presentation on cannabis. So, there's still a lot of things that are even decided at the county level. The county was strongly indicating that they were gonna try and be a fairly restrictive ban on, public, use in public, and then cities would have an option to opt out, was what they were current thinking, but they're still going through that. I don't think it's been on the county calendar yet. And then another thing that I found interesting was, part of the, obviously winters make growing year-round difficult, so they envisioned that most of the growing would actually be in a commercial warehouse type setting, and that the cities might need to think about, security or other kind of building requirements, having a large, cannabis farm in your commercial zone where you don't think about security or other kind of issues like that. So I thought that was kind of something that stood out for me as maybe something we would need to consider in terms of,
Maybe
zoning
it's
or.
rhetorical, but why wouldn't that be on the property owner?
No, if the city would make, right, project, one of them said about in California, they had gotten broken into and had caused a lot of crime in that area. And if the city needed to, put extra requirements on as part of their use permit or something like that. So that was something I hadn't thought about in terms of, cannabis growing. So I was thinking, oh yeah, it's just like a farm.
When
Go
you
ahead.
say commercial buildings though, so, I mean, they approve this for the residential or
Right.
personal use of I have 8 plants or whatever,
Four
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm confused.
Right, so,
Commercial came in.
there's like 12 different levels, yeah, so
Okay.
you can be, licensed,
Lakeview.
yeah,
Okay.
As a grow house.
as a grow house, right? So they'd have, electricity requirements, they have indoor growing, right, a
Okay.
large,
I see what you're saying.
yeah. So I
High
even
water
need
usage.
high water usage, lots of
Should be
electricity.
paid for.
Exactly, but I'm
Okay.
just thinking as a city, right? I was thinking more of a farm, right? Someone, doing, so, again, even at the county level and the county attorney was there and they still had a lot of stuff up in the air of trying to, there's not a good test for if someone's intoxicated with cannabis while driving, so there's still a lot of issues for them to work through, so.
There,
but,
yes.
Yeah.
There's still a lot.
So, anyway, that was it, sorry.
All right, no, thank you. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Frischman,
I'll second.
a second by Councilmember Welsh. Any further, nope, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good evening.
I think discuss the journey.
Oh, I do that every single time, every single time. Yeah.